Well, good evening, Pipe Pals. How you all doing tonight? It's about a little after 10 p.m. in the evening here. And I am smoking my Philippe Rivara pipe. And I have to say that this is just an excellent pipe. And it's been probably at least a week since I've had a pipe. I'm smoking tonight a Briar Patch caramel apple. Caramel apple. Don't know if you can see that. Using my webcam. My web camera, Logitech, that I've used for over the number of years, and especially when I make a ScreenFlow video, which is I'm going to do that tonight. Also, I got some great autumnal coffee here. Autumnal coffee. And basically, what autumnal coffee is. It is a mixture of allspice, cinnamon, just a little bit of chocolate, cocoa, and some cream, and there you have it. So, yeah, let's see, just a little housekeeping. It's been a kind of again a busy week in the life of the parish, and so sometimes, like I said, I don't get a lot of chance to really make videos like I'd like to. I like spending time with a lot of you and listening to some of your thoughts and comments. Let's see. I guess I gave basically my last video was a rant really on Apple products, and I probably am a bit guilty for a little bit of click and bait because I did say my thoughts on the debates. Well, I kind of told you what my thoughts on the debates were. My thoughts were that most people aren't going to be watching my videos for the next few weeks until after the election because everybody's going to be all watching the debates, right? So that was my thought on the debates. And I still kind of feel that way. I even had a playful video I was going to do. I'm going to tell you why. See, I had this whole thing in my mind, and I was going to make a very playful video, where I was going to prove my point that the person with the worst hair will lose. And I have a theory about that. I had a theory, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really develop that yet. And I had another theory on something else too. So, but anyway, tonight I just wanted to just kind of take a little bit of a look at an article I saw. Here we go. This is about the United States Marine Corps. Let's see if I can get this here. Maybe some of you have heard of this. Sometimes I really get a little bit annoyed at the internet because it loads all sorts of things videos, advertisements, videos, comments. It just sometimes, and it's like you know, what happened in the good old days? You just loaded a web page, you know. So anyway, maybe you've heard about this video or this issue. They put us through hell. A Marine abused at boot camp explains why he spoke out. Okay, I want to talk about this because, yeah, as a former Marine, not so mean, not so green, but still a Marine. There's something here that unfortunately people who not only went, like clearly I was going to say, you'd say, you know, you would, so I was going to say, well, if you haven't had the experience, you really don't know what is going on. And yet you'd say, well, this young man, he went through boot camp, and I guess he was, I don't know if he graduated boot camp, I guess he did, and then he got out, whatever. Because they kind of clearly, former Private Thomas Jacob Weaver, well, maybe, no, well, everybody's a private, basically. Everybody's a recruit, private. So maybe he didn't make it through. I don't know. I didn't read the full story, except the parts that really were critical of Marine Corps boot camp. And so that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, because, you know, our whole world is obsessed with quote unquote abuse, whether it's abuse of a person's authority or power, abuse of husbands or spouses. I guess you can say spouses now, because they even show that women beat up on men. Of course, the clergy sex abuse, and it's not just in the Catholic Church. It's in not only, it's in other denominations. Again, and I'm not trying to make light of what happened in the church, but also I think it's fair to say, and I think it's necessary to say, that there's probably more pedophilia or inappropriate relations with young people by teachers and coaches. So again, some people may not want to hear that, but actually statistically, there are more teachers that have abused young people than priests ever have. So that's another thing. But so we talk a lot about abuse. And we talk about Donald Trump abusing this lady Machado, the former Miss Universe pageant winner, calling her Miss Piggy, telling her she's putting on too much weight. She's been abused. People, even in the vegan movement, there was a guy named Doug Graham, I think, and people claimed that he was abusing them and taking advantage of them, and because they were looking to get healthy, and they felt that he abused them and again took advantage of them. So so, and again, there's all this form of abuse. So the thing is that, and I was thinking about this, this young boy, he was 17, 18, and again, this other incident where I guess a Muslim recruit was harassed, hazed, abused, and then he killed himself. So if you've never been through recruit training, and again, I saw some comments, and these were people from Air Force and Army and Navy, and God bless them, and thank you for your service. But if you've never been through Marine Corps boot camp, you probably don't really have skin in the game. Okay. Now, I will say this, to be honest, to be fair, when I was a young Marine, when I was going through boot camp, I often, and even in years past, I thought, a lot of the stuff that goes on in boot camp, you couldn't do that in regular civilian life because, clearly you would say it is abusive, psychologically, even physically, mentally. And to be sure, going through Marine Corps boot camp is not a picnic. It's not for the timid. I'll just be honest with you. One of the most sinking feelings in your life, I guarantee you, is when you're on that bus, whether you're coming from going to Parris Island or you're going to MCRD San Diego, MCRD Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island or Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego. And they do this, and they do it, and they will always do it, is they have it all programmed that those buses will arrive about 11 o'clock at night, because they know that many of these young recruits are going to start to, they're young people, most of them, and again, they're used to partying, and I know, and some of them they have either drank a lot or used some types of drugs, maybe not as extensively as some of their peers, but they certainly have probably known a party type of a life and eating lots of fast food and candy and sugar and Pringles, and so their whole world is going to be a radical immersion process when they get off that bus. And the moment they begin, they come into the recruit depot there, I know for me, deep down inside, this fear began to well up, and it lasted for 3 long months. I tell you what, the stomach, the pit in my stomach, it felt like I was falling, and I literally said, what in God's holy name have I done to myself? What was I thinking? And it's too late. You can't just say, excuse me, Mr. Drill Instructor person man, I want to go home now. That is not going to happen. You made a decision, and now they're going to give you the opportunity to see it through. So, I will be further honest with you. Was I, quote unquote, abused in boot camp? Absolutely. Every recruit is. You're harassed, you're hazed, you're yelled at, you're called names. They will manhandle you. I can say that without any hesitation. You will be physically trained. And you again will experience fear. Most people will. Now there's a few people that they've had some school of hard knocks, and it may not be all that hard. It'll be difficult. It won't be pleasant, but they'll kind of like, maybe they have had worse. Now I know that some people right now are saying, but it's wrong to harass people and haze people and abuse people, and under normal circumstances, I would agree 100%. But the reason why Marine Corps boot camp is the way it is because that they're trying to do, and I don't know how else you can do this, but they are trying to basically give you an experience of combat stress without actually going to combat, okay? Now, what's that like? Well, basically in combat, you are fearful for your very survival, probably 24/7 with a few punctuations of a little bit of sleep and a little bit of kind of, your mind numbing out for a few minutes and then snapping back into where you're at and getting back into reality. But that is the way that the Marine Corps has effectively recreated combat stress, and you have to be able to one, the person has to experience that. They have to be put in that environment. Okay, it's unpredictable. It's highly stressful. The only thing probably more stressful than that is probably Navy SEAL and Army Ranger, and also I'd say Marine Corps Officer School. Those three will probably really take you to that next level if you're able to do it. But the bottom line is that for young men and I guess women too in the Marine Corps, you want to give them an opportunity to see how they're going to do. How are they going to adapt and survive in a stress-filled combat simulated environment? And you can't do that any other way. What they do by that hazing, that exaggerated Marine Corps drill instructor crazy frenetic world is they completely, for the most part, take most people, I'd say about 90%. Like I said, there's a few that probably go there that, they're not going to be too stressed out. They're going to be stressed, but they're not going to be like most people are. So for them, it may not work. But then again, maybe they've gone through some really horrendous. Maybe they've gone through some real life, combat scenario type things, and again, this is simulation, but it's intense, and it's designed that way in purpose. It's not there to really. It's not like picking on people. It's not like, oh, I don't like this person, so I'm gonna pick on them. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Now, there's a excerpt here in this article. He said that he felt that some of these Marine drill instructors had been drinking late at night, and they came in and started harassing them. And I mean, okay, I don't know. I never experienced my drill instructors. I never smelled alcohol on any of them. They didn't need it. They were crazy enough without it. So when I was a young man, well, maybe when I can say a young kid, did I feel like this was abusive and this was wrong and bad? You're doggone right I did. But then, after I got out, I had a chance to look at it for what it really was, not what society wants to make it into now. I realized that how else are you going to immerse somebody in a highly stressful, fearful environment and see how they do? And it's not just like, well, we're gonna stress you out and just, let you become a basket case. No. They're going to introduce you to that stress and that fear. I tell you what, I cannot tell you, the fear, I wore it like a garment. That was like the first thing I put on. Every morning I woke up and said, I may not survive this. I may not get out of this place. I was really afraid. And that fear, once I was able to kind of tap into it, it was kind of like an energy supply. I was able to kind of, okay, if I listen really good, if I try to do things as perfectly as I can, maybe I'll get through today without getting into more trouble, because there was always this fear of going to dirt, going to motivation, and they call it going to dirt. And if you were an it bird if you were a person that had an attitude problem, you were somebody that kind of refused to follow orders, and you messed up all the time, you were going to go to dirt. And we would see these guys coming back from dirt, and it was like they were walking dead men. I mean, it was like, you don't want, I mean, as bad as boot camp is, it could even get a hell of a lot worse. You know, and you just, well, they put a lot of fear into you. But eventually, they trained you and taught you how to use that fear as a tool. Again, that's part of it. It's not just stressing somebody out completely and make them, you know, crazy people, but it's like saying, okay, we're gonna make your life really stressful. Okay, you are going to be fearful. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be distressed. You're going to be depressed. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all those things are going to be challenged, and they're going to be, you're going to be taxed to the limit. But that's why you go to boot camp. You know, it's not about marching in parades and wearing uniforms. It's about how do you deal with, you know, combat type stress. And so that's the reason why that quote unquote abuse or hazing is the way it is in the Marine Corps. And looking back as at first as a young person, I remember getting out of the going home after boot camp, and although I was proud of that I survived and I graduated and I went home and I wore my dress blues and hey, I was a Marine and it was great. But part of me, I remember I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder towards my recruiter. And when I walked in there, he knew that I was mad. He knew I was upset. And he said, look, when I went to his recruiting office, because I was going to tell him off, you know. I was going to say, you didn't really tell me what it was going to be like. And if I had known that, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he says, no, just shut up and sit down. Now I'm in the Marine Corps, so I have to do what he says. He's a sergeant. When I was just a young, dumb kid, I didn't know any better. But now I'm realizing, okay. But I still knew him more as a kind of a, neighborhood friend / Marine recruiter. So I felt I had a little bit more, kind of more of a relationship with him, so I could at least be honest how I felt. And he said, look, I know what you want to say to me. You feel that I lied to you. You feel like I cheated you or I tricked you. And he goes, I didn't. He said, he goes, you saw the video. And I said, yeah. And he goes, but the difference was you were watching the video here in this office, because I'd watch this video over and over again. I thought it was a really good instructional video about boot camp. Kind of motivating too, inspirational. Narrated by Jack Webb, I think. It's really a good video. And he said, but now the difference is that you were watching a video in my office for a number of months, kind of getting a sense of what boot camp was like, and now you've had your own real experience, and that was your lived experience. And that's why, you can't watch enough videos to have that experience, because you have to go through it. So, again, I would say that a lot of these people that are, literally whining and crying, now again, it's regrettable that that recruit took his life. But at the same time, and it's happened before, I mean, I had a bunk mate who tried to kill himself. I thought about it, but I just too much of a coward. But the thing is that, yeah, it's stressful. It's fearful, and it's designed to be that way. And hopefully, you get a chance to get a sense, you get a chance to see yourself. How do I function? How do I survive? How do I think my way out of this? Because I'm petrified. I don't know what to do. And I've got to control now that fear. I've got to control this stress. I have to now find a way to win. And that's what they want you to do. I had to find a way to adapt in this stressful, fearful, loud, scary, unpredictable, don't know what's coming next kind of world. And those of you who've gone through boot camp with me, or have gone through your own Marine Corps boot camp experience, know that pretty much what I'm saying is probably right on. Now, yeah, I know there'll probably be a few people say, well, it doesn't have to be that way, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it probably doesn't have to be that way. I mean, it could be like the Army or the Air Force, and everybody's really polite and, and just kind of going by the numbers. And, we clock out at 4 o'clock and go to the PX and, get some candy and smoke some cigarettes and, chill out with our friends and maybe listen to some tunes. I don't know. But again, they're trying to simulate being in a combat situation, a combat environment. And how are you going to negotiate that? And what they do is, well, I can even smell some of those early smells of boot camp. Sometimes it gets a little, So, but the thing is that I think that it would be terrible if the politically correct crowd was able to, basically pretty much dismantle the Marine Corps. Say, well, it's abusive and you're yelling at these poor young people and you're hurting their feelings and oh my gosh, they just can't take it. Well, you know what? If they can't take it, then they find ways to, section you out, and they do. They don't want to try. They're not really trying to humiliate you personally. That's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to help you discover something far deeper in your character. And some people, they don't have it. I think a lot of people do have it, but because of the society we now live in, where we want to tolerate people's imperfections, not imperfections, but their weaknesses, and almost now, tell them to be prideful of their, I'm fat or I'm whatever, and be proud about that. Folks, I'm not saying you should, go hide in a corner and stuff and, or go in your basement and live there for the rest of your life. But if you really want, to feel esteem, then go out and achieve some. And that's what the Marine Corps gives a lot of people, a lot of young people who probably haven't had a chance to taste a little bit of personal success in their lives. They recognize that, I can succeed at something, but I have to work for it. I really have to apply myself. And at the end of those 3 months, you kind of discover another person in your life. And I would say that if you go through Marine Corps training, it will help you later in life. It gives you some real gifts that you will take with you probably till the day you die. But they're intangible gifts, but they're real gifts. The gifts like, again, realizing. One of the things about me, I was not a physical person. I never really have been. But the Marine Corps taught me a couple of things. Taught me marksmanship. And it taught me how to run. Taught me how to run. I hated running. I didn't do track. I didn't do sports in high school. I was one of those scrawny kids, and I was embarrassed. And I just didn't want to do PE, so I would cut PE for the most part, and I would do other things. But the Marine Corps taught me how to face some of my fears and some of the things I just didn't like to do. And running, I didn't like it because it was uncomfortable. It hurt. It challenged me. I had to, but you know what? After, pushing through, taking one more step, even though I wanted to quit and stop and sit down and cry and, you know, all that stuff, you know, I realized, okay, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. I can do that. And then eventually they'll say, quick time, huh! And then you start walking again. It's like, that wasn't so bad. But yeah, it helps you later in life. You don't realize it, but it does. It gives you that ability to say, okay, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. This is distasteful. This is painful. I don't like being like this. I don't like being treated like this, whatever it is. But then you say, but I went through Marine Corps boot camp and I made it through that. I probably can make it through this thing here too. So that's why I think that it's important to, again, we're talking an isolated incident. It's tragic that this young man decided he wanted to quit, and he took the most permanent way out. Again, I'm not making any judgment calls on him. But again, this is an individual who made a choice, and maybe he was harassed, possibly, to that point. But that's just one isolated event. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of young people have successfully undergone Marine Corps recruit training and have survived quite well by you know, I might add, and they have become successful. And so I would just say that the history of the Marine Corps' training methods, I think, speak for themselves, despite some individual and isolated incidents that, you know, had tragic you know, responses. Again, like I said, if you haven't been through Marine Corps recruit training, then you probably have no concept of what I'm talking about, and that's okay too. It's not a put down to you. It's just that, again, if you don't understand, if you haven't experienced it, you don't really have an understanding of why it is the way it is. And if you change that, radically change that, you would not have a Marine Corps. That's the bottom line. You would not have a Marine Corps. You would have guys that might wear dress blues, but they wouldn't be Marines. A Marine is somebody that's something from within, okay? You know, everything is this internal becoming. It's a transition process. It really is. Now, again, there are some people who might think I'm being a little bit too, you know, ennobling of Marine Corps boot camp, but I do believe that it helps to make Marines who will be able to fight our nation's battles, first to fight and all that good stuff. Oorah, oorah. But again, it helps that individual face adversity and learn how to be successful. And they learn to discover some really deep character strengths within them, because they're there, but sometimes they have to be mined. You know, it's like, you know, finding gold or silver. You know, you're just not going to really walk up to the mine and pick up a bunch of nuggets and say, well, we're done today. Probably going to have to go down pretty deep. Probably have to take some risks. Going to have to do a lot of physical work to find those nuggets. But they're there, but you've got to find them. And that's what Marine Corps boot camp helps, I would say, young men and even young women find those character gifts. So the training works, and I would say for those that would like to try and change it, well, you know, you probably will not succeed. And I hope you don't succeed, because you would destroy some of our nation's finest military service members. So all I'll say is, you know, Semper Fi, hold 'em high at 8th and I. Have a great evening wherever you're at, and have a great weekend. And we will talk to you again soon. I promise. See, how do I turn this off? Stop video.